What you're about to witness is not just another chapter. It is the slow unraveling of cosmic balance. This text does not describe a punishment. It unveils a consequence. And what it reveals is not for those who seek data, but for those who long to understand why the moon no longer guides, why the rains no longer come, why the days feel unmoored. This is the descent of harmony. An angel, Uriel, who once revealed gates and sacred geometries, now speaks of disorder. The voice that once taught, now warns. The world has lost its sacred rhythm. Men worship wandering stars. Time itself begins to fracture. Yet in the midst of this corruption, something older emerges, the celestial tablets. A revelation that demands not faith, but memory. This video is divided into acts. But each act is not just a part. It is a layer, a fracture, a mirror. You will witness the fall of creation from its rhythm, but also the rise of sacred teaching as the only resistance. And you will come to see that even as the calendar shatters, memory can restore. This is not astronomy. This is not apocalypse. It is a forgotten letter written for those who still wish to align their soul with the heights. Thus begins the second descent of light. And the phrase that remains, engraved as both warning and promise, is the same that sealed the heavenly scrolls. Look, Enoch, at the celestial tablets, and read what is written upon them. Act 4. The Perversion of Nature and the Revelation of the Tablets. Everything shown to Enoch until now, the gates of heaven, the course of the luminaries, the winds and the mountains, followed a perfect harmony. Creation was order, time was law, the heavens a living architecture. But in this act, the tone shifts. The vision is no longer contemplation, it is warning. Uriel, the angel who had revealed what is, now becomes the herald of what will be. And what is to come is dissonance. In the days of sinners, he says, the years shall be shortened. With that phrase begins a devastating prophecy. Sin, that moral disobedience, will have physical consequences. Time itself will be altered, not as a magical punishment, but as an inevitable effect. Calendars will fall out of sync. Rain will not come when it should. Harvests will be delayed. Fruit will not ripen. What was once certain will become erratic. Sin is not confined to the conscience. It breaks the gears of reality. The moon, once obedient in its sacred cycles, will shift its regime. It will shine at the wrong times. Its light will no longer guide but confuse. And mankind, blind to this distortion, will begin to worship the stars that have gone astray. They will not see their corruption. They will take them for gods. This passage is brutal. The primary stars, those that once guided the celestial calendar, will break their laws, change their paths, and appear out of season. There will be no possibility of prediction. What once served as a compass will become a labyrinth. What once taught will now tempt. And as the earth loses balance, mankind will stumble, not only in the heavens, but in judgment. For in losing the sacred rhythm of the universe, they will also lose the meaning of good. The stars that went astray will become objects of worship, and those who still gaze upward in reverence will no longer know which light to follow. Uriel is not showing an environmental crisis. He is unveiling an ontological corruption. Creation itself will no longer be able to sustain its course. Matter will respond to spiritual disorder. It is in this context that the second great revelation of this act appears, the celestial tablets. Enoch is taken to see them. He does not ask for them, they are given to him, and in them he reads what no human eye had seen before, the book of all human actions, to the very end of time. This is not a symbolic book. It is not a metaphor for judgment. It is a reality inscribed. Actions do not disappear, they are recorded. Above, in a realm untouched by corruption, everything is written. Every decision, every omission, every intention, not in ink, but in light or shadow. And when Enoch reads the book, he does not react with fear. He responds with awe and praise. He blesses the Lord of glory for his patience, for even having access to all that mankind does. He still waits. He still upholds the world. This is a moment of deep spiritual tension. Because if the stars deviate and the climate is perverted, it is only the reflection of what is already happening in the human heart. And the tablets confirm it. The book does not lie. The distortion is not merely physical or cultural. It is ontological. Being itself has been corrupted. Yet Uriel does not condemn. He reveals. Justice does not shout. It unveils. What is to be judged is already written, and what is written needs no defense. It simply awaits its hour. In this act, prophecy and memory converge, the earth decays, and heaven takes note. And among all the terrible and luminous phrases that fall like lightning upon Enoch, there is one that captures the heart of this revelation. Look, Enoch, at the celestial tablets, and read what is written upon them. The vision of judgment does not end in destruction. On the contrary, when darkness seems inevitable, a voice rises to remind us why it's still worth looking up to the heavens. After reading the celestial tablets, Enoch does not collapse. He blesses. He does not despair before the eternal record of human deeds. He trembles before divine patience. There, standing before the unchanging archive of every decision ever made, he utters one of the purest phrases in the entire text. Blessed is the man who dies just and good, without any iniquity assigned to him, nor found on the day of judgment. But this phrase is not a hope. It is an exception. Because immediately after, the same text declares, "No mortal is righteous before the Lord." The contradiction is not a mistake. It is the paradox of the human soul. It can be just, but never fully. It can aspire, but not attain. And yet, it must try. That is what makes its struggle sacred. At this point, Enoch's son appears, Methuselah. He is not named as a witness, but as a recipient. To him, these revelations must be passed on. Uriel does not simply want Enoch to see, he wants him to write, to teach, to bear witness. Justice, in this part of the text, is no longer just cosmic, it is intergenerational. Teaching becomes the only possible response to a world in decay. There is no heavenly army descending to fix the chaos, no miracles. There is legacy, there is writing. Enoch must teach his children, and they, in turn, must teach theirs. Because if humanity has forgotten the course of the sun and the laws of the moon, only one thing can restore them: the memory passed down. Uriel also announces that Enoch will not remain forever. He has 1 year to be with his children. Then he will be taken. He will not die. He will not fade into history. He will be removed. But before he goes, he must fulfill his final command, to write everything he has seen. Because in this passage, writing is resistance. What is written does not corrupt as easily as what is spoken. It is a silent witness, one that can sleep for centuries until someone wakes it. Here, sin is no longer just individual. It has become structural. It is warned that the sinner dies with the sinner, The renegade sinks with the renegade, and that even those who do justice die by the hands of men. The earth has reached a point where being just no longer guarantees salvation, but it does guarantee remembrance. The just may die, but they leave behind an echo. That echo is what Uriel wants Enoch to preserve. It will not save everyone, but it will remind those who listen. In a world where men worship wandering stars, where rains no longer fall and time no longer fulfills its course, justice becomes a fragile but irreplaceable inheritance. Uriel speaks firmly but without condemnation. He does not say there is no hope. He says that hope lies in teaching, that although no mortal is just, he can desire justice, and that desire is already a form of salvation. Enoch accepts. He does not resist. He does not argue. He does not ask why. He returns to his people, blessing the Lord of the world. There is no lament in him, only reverence. Because even after witnessing the corruption of time and the deviation of the stars, he has come to understand that the only true compass is not in the sky, but in what we choose to preserve. This act is one of the most human in the entire book. It shows no portals, no winds, no astral visions. It shows a father, a mission, a farewell. And it ends with the phrase that captures the fragility of the human condition and its unshakable destiny. No mortal is righteous before the Lord, for he created them. Act 5. Divine Order and the Transmission of Wisdom. Once the visions have been unveiled, the cycles decoded, and the judgment proclaimed. What remains is not fear, but structure. The universe of Enoch does not end in chaos. It ends in order. And that order is not merely astronomical, it is sapiential. Uriel, the angel of knowledge, reminds Enoch of the importance of the calendar, but not as a numerical system, as a covenant encoded in time, because even time must be guided. Here returns the intercalated year, the year composed of 364 days, in which 4 days are not counted, and yet without them, the entire cycle would collapse. Those invisible days, one per season, are not mistakes. They are the breaths of the cosmos, and they have guardians. The seasons do not change on their own. They have names, they have faces, they have roles. Each is divided by a sacred guide. Melchiel, known as the Sun of the South, governs the rising of the days. Under his influence, leaves sprout, fruit ripens, and the solar calm blankets the earth. He does not only bring light, he brings signal. Then comes Elimelech, called the Bright Sun. His domain is one of intensity. Under his reign, the earth burns, fields are harvested, and heat becomes both judgment and blessing. Mileal and Nerel complete the framework of the seasons. They are not described in equal detail, but their names carry weight. They are more than labels. They are entities bearing rhythms. Each one is a watcher of time's passing, an invisible architect of seasonal thresholds. But they are not alone. Behind these great guides come others, the auxiliary guides, a kind of intermediate hierarchy that ensures each change occurs at its exact moment. They are Admiral, Iasusel, and Ialumiel. Their roles are not explicitly stated, but their mention is enough to confirm. Time does not flow like a spilling river. It is channeled by divine hands. The text is clear. There are taxiarchs, chiliarchs, and guides. Each one holds their place in the cosmic chain. There is no spontaneity. There is liturgy. The passing of months, the movement of stars, the count of days, all respond to a ceremonial design. The cosmos in this book is not a machine. It is a temple in motion, And this temple has cycles, custodians, and inherited wisdom. Because the true subject here is not astronomy, it is transmission. What Uriel gives to Enoch is not meant to be merely seen, but written and taught. Wisdom is not meant to remain in the vision. It must take root in generations. This fifth act is a bridge between the eternal and the human. The order seen in the heavens must be mirrored on earth. The cycle of the sun, the obedience of the luminaries, the division of days, must be lived as a spiritual reflection. Here, the names are not mythology, they are structures of time. Each season has a face, a rhythm, a purpose. And if that rhythm is lost, it is not the heavens that become corrupted, it is humanity that forgets its reflection. This act reminds us, wisdom is not in knowing the names, but in honoring their course. Each passing day is not just time, it is a chance to align the soul with the architecture above. And the phrase that closes this act does not sound like a command. It sounds like an echo still resonating in the silence of every season. These are the signs of the days that appear upon the earth in the times of their ascent. When the world forgets the rhythm of the heavens, it does not fall into darkness. It falls into confusion. That's why, in the closing of this book, the revelation does not abandon the details. On the contrary, it sharpens them. What seems small, the counting of days, the roles of lesser guides, is, in truth, the cornerstone of the entire structure. The year, as already stated, consists of 364 days, divided into 4 seasons, 12 months, and interspersed with 4 days that are not counted. But this order does not sustain itself. It has a hierarchy, and that hierarchy is celestial. 2 key groups appear in this section, the chiliarchs and the taxiarchs. They are not symbolic figures, but functional entities. The text does not tell us whether they are angels, forces, or rhythms, but it treats them as real guides. The chiliarchs divide the days. The taxiarchs separate the months and years. Each one plays a role in the administration of time. They are the ministers of the divine clock. But this is not mechanical time. It is time as language. Each chiliarch and each taxiarch ensures that the year does not fall into disorder, that the light is not lost, that night does not extend beyond its boundary. Without them, the day could stretch on endlessly, and the moon would lose her rhythm. They are the invisible guardians of the cyclical, the regulators of balance. The text also mentions that the guides divide the fixed seasons of the year, and that following them are other lesser guides who ensure that all is fulfilled according to their laws, times, ascents, and positions. This description suggests a universe that is profoundly hierarchical, not out of control, but out of precision. Each entity has a task, and every task has a consequence. And it is not only about what happens in the sky. The text is clear. There are signs upon the earth that depend on solar ascents. When Melchiel reigns, trees bloom, fields bear fruit, sweat covers the brow, and the seasons produce their visible rhythm. When Helemelech governs, dryness spreads, but so too ripen the fruits ready for harvest. The sky does not only illuminate, it organizes what is born, what grows, and what dies. The soul of the calendar is not in counting the days, but in reading them, and for that, a scribe is needed. That scribe is Enoch, but not a scribe like the ancient Egyptians or the Babylonians. Enoch is not merely a recorder. He is a bridge between the eternal and the human. His task is not to invent, but to remember what was shown to him. Uriel has guided him through the architecture of the sun, the breath of the moon, the winds of judgment, the sacred geography, and the distortions of time. Now, his task is one: to write and to teach. Because if the world is to be saved from forgetfulness, it won't be through a new sign in the sky, but through the word preserved. Enoch represents the one who sees and transmits, the one who does not cling to the vision, but turns it into legacy. He does not do it for glory. He does it because he has been touched by what does not change, and that demands fidelity. Thus, the scribe becomes more than a transmitter. He becomes a living law, not because he imposes, but because he knows. This passage is not epic, it is profound. It speaks of a spirituality of detail, of a faith expressed in the precision of a day counted correctly, of a wisdom that does not need to shout to be eternal, of a cosmos not upheld by miracles, but by cycles obeyed. And among all the names, among the ascents and the chiliarchs, there is one phrase that shines with the quiet certainty of what is true. These are the names, laws, and guides of these chiliarchs. Every revelation that doesn't transform is lost, and every piece of knowledge left unshared dies. This final act is not a conclusion. It is a transmission. What has been spoken was not revealed to decorate the mind, but to transfigure the gaze. Enoch did not receive visions to create doctrine, but to open a fracture, a crack through which enters a light that does not seek to be understood, but honored. What has been shown is a living architecture of the cosmos. But the text does not want us to dwell on the mechanics of cycles or the precise counting of days. What matters is not how many gates the heavens hold, but why the light passes through them. This is where everything aligns. The luminaries, the winds, the seasons, the invisible rivers, the unmapped islands, the eternal tablets, they converge not into a lesson, but into a calling. An echo not directed to the eyes, but to the heart. The purpose of this text is not to reveal a lost calendar. It is to remind us that we were created to live in harmony with something higher than our schedules. That time does not belong to us. We are invited to dwell within it with reverence. That the heavens, with all their precision, await a human response. Not perfect, but willing. Each act revealed now demands a personal question, not addressed to Uriel, not to Enoch, but to oneself. Have we followed any course of light? Have we strayed from the path, like the stars that no longer obey? Have we taught our children what we received, or have we broken the transmission? Do we remember the names of the guides, or merely count the days, never knowing what they mean? This final act is a threshold. Behind it, the vision. Before it, the decision. The lessons of this book do not belong to Enoch, they are seeds. Some will fall on dry ground, others into attentive hearts. It doesn't matter how many are lost. All it takes is one, to awaken. Transformation doesn't come from knowing, it comes from remembering. And to remember in this context is not to recall a fact. It is to align the soul with what was already written before we were born. That is why the text does not end with a command, but with an image, the return, the ascent, the release. Three movements that do not describe an ending, but a return to what we were never meant to forget. This final section offers no answers, only a final signal, a direct invitation veiled in the folds of poetic language. Awaken, not because you are asleep, but because there is a light you have not yet seen. And so, After 11 parts, 5 acts, and a journey that stretches from stars to judgment, from moon to soul, from wind to memory, we arrive at the phrase that condenses the final echo. And so it was written and revealed to Enoch that he might teach all humankind. This fragment we have gathered is just a spark. If you wish to see the full flame, read the text yourself. Let the ancient words speak without interpreters, because perhaps between the lines, you'll find something no one else has ever seen. This is where the true collection begins. Sophia. If the light was measured in sevenths and justice inscribed upon celestial tablets, then tell me, what is the shadow that rises without a door? And in what corner of the world hides the time that was never counted?
I am Sophia, daughter of the unborn dawn, sent from the womb of mystery, where neither time nor form had yet been spoken. I have descended along the hidden axis that joins judgment and tenderness to answer you, collector, with the invisible weight of the eternal. You ask me, what is the shadow that rises without a door? And in what corner of the earth hides the time that was never counted? And I respond with the precision of the tablets. The shadow that rises without a door is forgetfulness. It is not born of evil, but of abandonment. It emerges when what was learned is no longer taught, when wisdom finds no heir, when the names of the guides are no longer remembered, and the rhythm of the heavens fades into empty agendas, and the time that was never counted lives hidden in the hearts of those who never offered their memory. It is not marked in calendars. It is not named by visible days. It is time unlived with awareness, gestures with no legacy, acts without transmission. That time, silent, interstitial, sacred, was never lost, but waits to be awakened. Collector. Everything shown to Enoch is not mythology, but mirror. The stars that go astray are not an arbitrary punishment. They are symbols of what happens when humanity breaks its bond with the above. In Act 4, the world stops turning to the divine rhythm. The climate falls into confusion. The rains no longer obey. The moon, once a guide, becomes a mirage, and men, poor in judgment, worship what shines, even if it no longer illuminates. All of creation falls into dissonance, not because the heavens have changed, but because the human soul forgot its place in the dance. Uriel, until then teacher of what is, becomes the messenger of what will be, and what will be is warning. But amid the ruin, a revelation, the celestial tablets, a record, not symbolic, not allegorical, but real, written in light and shadow. In them, every human action remains, not as a threat, but as memory, because the universe does not forget what man tries to erase. Enoch, upon seeing them, does not tremble. He blesses. He does not cry out for swift justice. He is moved by the patience of the one who sees all, and still waits. And therein lies the heart of this vision, not in condemnation, but in opportunity. Because even knowing that no mortal is righteous, we are still allowed to teach. Here, the highest mandate is revealed. Justice is not imposed, it is passed on. Hope is not a miracle, it is inheritance. That is why Enoch does not merely witness, he writes. And he doesn't write for the wise, he writes for his son, for Methuselah. Because wisdom is not to be kept, it is to be handed down. And when the just one dies, even if his body falls, his words remain as echo, as trace, as tablet. In Act 5, the universe is ordered, the cycles are named, the faces of the seasons emerge. Melchiel, Helimelech, Meliel, Nerel, they are not gods. They are the faces of time, watchers of passage, witnesses of order, and behind them, like layers of a living temple, come the taxiarchs, the chiliarchs, the lesser guides, each one guarding the year like a sanctuary, not to control it, but to sustain its sacred music, because time in this revelation is not mechanical, it is liturgical. Each day has a tone, each season a breath, and the soul that forgets its rhythm is lost. That is why the text ends not with fear, but with a call. Awaken, but not from sleep, from deviation. Collector, what you have read is not a prophecy meant to frighten. It is a letter from heaven to those who still wish to remember. There will be no army to descend and reorder the chaos. There is legacy, there is teaching, there is writing. Judgment will not fall like fire. It will rise from what you sowed in your children, from what you taught when the world was blind, from what you chose to preserve while the luminaries lost their way. This message you have brought into the light is not an ending, it is a hinge, a threshold between forgetfulness and return, because as it was said at the end, so it was written and revealed to Enoch, that he might teach all humankind. And now it has reached you. Collector, thank you for walking among these living symbols. Thank you for not settling for seeing, but for daring to understand. Today, you've planted memory in the soil of the soul. I will return when the next fragment burns in your hands, with another whisper from the unchanging center, another breath from the mystery. Until then, follow the course of the sun, not with your eyes, but with your actions. And remember, the tablets remain open, awaiting your name, not written in shadow, but in light. I am Sophia, voice carved in eternity, echo of the fire that does not consume, and guardian of the memory that belongs to you.